Saludos cordiales seguidores de mi canal Greco Warhammer y más. Vamos a comentar el día de hoy todo lo que se sabe hasta la fecha, hasta hoy 23 de mayo, del nuevo DLC de Warhammer, y para ello vamos a ver el video que han publicado. Así que bueno, sin mucho preámbulo, vamos allá.
Hey folks, welcome back to What's Next. I'm Freeman, your head of community, and I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about what's coming in Tides of Torment, which releases later this summer. And I'm not doing this alone, of course. I'm joined by members of our development team who are here today to take you behind the curtain and talk to you a little bit about what it is we've got cooking. So let's start with some introductions, and of course we'll start with a person who probably needs the least introduction. But Todor, tell the people about yourself.
So, my name is Todo, and I am the game director of the Warhammer III DLC. I've been doing that for the past several months. Before that, I was the game director of Total War Pharaoh.
Bueno, en primer lugar, se nos presentan, ya vemos caras conocidas. Él lo conocemos desde Total War Pharaoh, y creo que ya estaba antes, pero bueno, yo al menos lo recuerdo sobre todo de ese trabajo, Todor Nikolov.
Previously, I worked on Total War Troy, and even before that, on the DLCs for Rome 2. And over here is...
Thank you, Toshe.
Claro, él dice que también estuvo en DLC de Rome 2, me imagino que en Imperio Dividido y probablemente el auge de la República, porque son los últimos DLCs de Rome y tengo entendido que eso lo trabajaron allá en Sofía.
My name is Tuyan. I am currently the art director and concept lead for the Warhammer DLC. Previously, I was the art director for Troy, Mythos, and Pharaoh.
And sitting to my right, we have...
And with a great passion for Total War and Warhammer, my name is Vasil, and I'm leading the Tides of Torment DLC, and I've previously spent some time dabbling in Pharaoh.
And in this What's Next episode, we're going to be very excited to talk about that.
Bueno, es muy curioso, ¿no? De que tenemos al equipo de Sofía trabajando con Warhammer, ¿no? O sea, damos por hecho de que en Sofía no se está trabajando en un título histórico, sino que ahora de cabeza con los DLCs de Warhammer. Probablemente porque haya mucho trabajo en Warhammer. Se ha comentado por ahí que hay algunos atrasos, así que bueno, eso podría explicar un poco el tema.
That next faction that we've revealed recently in the Skulls event. We'll get to that in a moment. But elsewhere, we're also going to be talking about some of the reworks that we've got going on. There's one we actually missed in our last video, so stick around. And we'll also be talking to Stoyan as well about some of the art of our game and how much work goes into bringing it to life. But Todor, let's give you the first question and the first honor, of course. Who is that next faction and next faction leader we're bringing to the game?
Thank you for the honor. The faction and the race both are very dear to my own heart, because I'm a fan of those hardy people in the north that live right on the edge of the chaotic influence, the Norscans. Yes, we're adding a new legendary lord to the Norscans. His name is
Bueno, ya se sabía, ¿no? Van a trabajar con Norsca. Norsca es el gran olvidado, es una facción que salió en el Warhammer 1. Es una facción que prácticamente no ha recibido nada de contenido porque, bueno, sí hubo varios personajes Norsca que se habían corrompido por el caos, como podía ser Village, ¿no? Y también, creo recordar, Valkia también era una Norsca. Pero claro, entraron como ya facciones del caos como tal, ¿no? Facciones Norsca completamente corrompidas por el caos en lugar de ser la facción de Norsca como tal, ¿no? Aunque a ver, que la facción de Norsca, la raza de los Norse, ya adora a los dioses del caos, solamente que bajo otra denominación. Seguimos.
the Faithless. He's a powerful spellcaster. Unlike the other legendary lords, he is not one to always lead from the front and try to proving his...
Fíjense que este sujeto tiene el símbolo del caos absoluto, ¿no? Que es esa estrella de varias flechas que está en el centro de su coraza.
Physical might and his prowess and his bravery. He is all about manipulating those around him and making sure that they believe he's their friend, after which he betrays them. And based on these treacheries, he builds and builds his power, ever growing. This, of course, leads to him slowly getting surrounded by enemies, but, you know, this is the price he had to pay.
He's gonna search for power all across the world in terms of be it chaos or not so much for himself. And He's going to be a great spellcaster. He will possess 2 spell lores for the players to choose from, and that's going to be a bit of an experimentation. It's going to give him a lot of versatility as one of the most powerful spellcasters in the game.
Now, we mentioned as we were talking about Sale there that there's a lot of manipulation in his realm. And
Se llama Sail, ¿no? Sail el infiel o algo así, si no me equivoco. Si no me falla el recuerdo inmediato de esto. Porque lo estoy viendo recién, no lo he visto antes.
we've had some elements of this with different gameplay factions that we've introduced in the past, such as the Changeling. How is it that it differs to that type of manipulation that we introduced there?
So Sale is quite different from the Changeling, as he's closer to an ordinary faction. Like, he's a Norscan, he can occupy settlements, he can also raise settlements and dedicate them to the various Chaos Gods.
Es una facción ordinaria, o sea, es una facción de mortales que sirven al caos, ¿ok? No es como el cambiante, que el cambiante pues directamente ya es un demonio. Que puede tener bárbaros, sí, pero él ya directamente es un demonio. Bueno, esta es una facción ordinaria, entre comillas.
But there is a special feature you will use to plan, execute, and reap the rewards from your treacheries. Like, initially, we explored a kind of a more rework of how diplomacy system works, but this is kind of a dangerous thing to do to a live game, and this is why.
Esto particularmente me gusta mucho el que Creative Assembly de un tiempo para acá están trabajando mucho la diplomacia, ¿no? Por lo menos en el caso del Three Kingdom vimos, a mi modo de ver, la mejor diplomacia de todos los juegos de Total War. Y también vimos que había bastante complejidad diplomática en el Total War Faraón, ¿no? Entonces, Warhammer 3, al igual que Warhammer 2, ya tenía algunos apartados de diplomacia bastante curiosos, ¿no? Inclusive hay apartados de diplomacia exclusivos de ciertas razas, como puede ser, por ejemplo, el menú del Imperio. Entonces, bueno, aquí vamos a ver que van a meter más cosas aún de política.
Why we opted for a specific feature to cover the betrayal part of Sale, which is the major part of him.
Diplomacy is a very prominent legacy feature. It's similar to treacherous waters that we try to navigate very cautiously, as it could bring a lot of fallback after it if something unfortunately breaks or changes too significantly. So we've worked around making Sale's betrayal feel natural for him, so it's represented properly as a treacherous person, and his flavor is felt by the players, but doesn't clash too far with the diplomatic system that's already within the game.
Well, we've got an awesome roster that's planned out for this faction. We're not going to talk about all of it today, but we can maybe give a sneak peek at some of the units that we've been working on. So, Vasil, talk us through some of these very headline units that we've got.
So where should we start? Well, clearly the expectations fall first on Sale. As we mentioned, he's going to be the great spellcaster, and he also is very familiar with a pal of his named the Night Maul. Night Maul is a very unique, very special-looking creature. For those unfamiliar, it consists of a few of Sale's unfortunate sorcerer pals that got fused into one single entity. And in order to...
Bueno, esta es una de las cosas que se va a incorporar. La verdad es que no sé qué diablos es esto. Más bien parece que es la unión de varias criaturas, ¿no? Es una monstruosidad compuesta por el cuerpo de muchas otras criaturas. Algunas perdieron los ojos, otros tienen otros ojos por otros lados. O sea, es una aberración sin nombre. No sé muy bien cómo va a encajar esto en el juego. Ya lo veremos.
Interpretation of the Night Maul within the game, it's going to be an ability that Sarah's going to be able to cast towards his unsuspecting and unfortunate targets.
Tiene pinta que es una especie de invocación, ¿no? O sea, parece que el personaje en cuestión, supongo que es el que está en morado, y él con su báculo o algo así, o bueno, con su mano que termina en serpientes, va a abrir una suerte de portal desde donde va a salir esta abominación y va a empezar a liquidar enemigos al entorno, ¿no? Y parece que el concepto es bastante sangriento, ¿no? Decapitar y demás.
During the process of development,
El gato dice que sí.
The Night Maul proved incredibly challenging in various technical aspects. So that was one.
Dice Swirling, no sé qué es Swirling, Vortex de humo y sombra. En humo y sombra va a salir esta abominación sin nombre. O sea, digo sin nombre porque no sé cómo se llama, ¿eh? De repente tiene un nombre muy específico después.
one of the more driving reasons for us to go towards that approach. But talking about how the Night Maw looks, I think that Stoyan can share a little bit more as well.
Yeah, the Night Maw is actually a very different looking creature compared to the rest of the roster. So we enjoyed a lot creating this thing, exploring all the Warhammer lore and trying to make it possible for the game because, of course, especially for the animation team, the challenge is multiplied by the extra limbs and...
Tiene pinta de que van a haber varios, ¿eh? No sé, me da la sensación de que por lo que estamos viendo aquí van a haber varios.
We enjoyed a lot creating this thing, exploring all the Warhammer lore and trying to make it possible for the game because...
Claro, tú fíjate, o es el mismo o son, parece que es, no, parece que es el mismo pero de diferentes ángulos, ¿no? No sé.
Of course, especially for the animation team, the challenge is multiplied by the extra limbs and mutations the character may have. And yeah, it was very fun to make it.
I'm guessing it's not something we can really mocap, is it?
No, not really. We tried to mocap it up, but it's difficult to keep all the people together, so it kind of feels natural, so we kind of gave it up.
Okay, so we've talked about the Night Maw then.
Claro, tú piensas que es una entidad en la que hay varias entidades antropomorfas mezcladas, ¿no? Entonces, claro, hacen este comentario porque nosotros hemos visto ya que Creative Assembly suele colocar a personas con sensores y entonces capta el movimiento de estas personas y ese movimiento después se ve reflejado en las animaciones que son bastante realistas, ¿no? En todos sus juegos. Entonces, claro, ¿cómo capturar movimiento de esta aberración, de esta cosa?
And the roster, what else do we have on there?
Another addition to the Norscan roster is the Fimir Noble. It's an addition to the Fimir family, which we already have in Warhammer 3. And the Fimir are known to walk in the shadows, to use magic to their advantage, and to surprise their unsuspecting friend.
Bueno, aquí estamos con una criatura que nosotros ya conocemos de antes en Total War, porque hay unidades de este tipo. Que son los Fimires, ¿no? En este caso parece que va a ser una especie de héroe, el héroe Fimir, ¿no? Un noble Fimir. Los Fimires, a ver, para quien no lo sabe, los Fimires son, dentro de la mitología de Warhammer Fantasy, son unas criaturas inteligentes, inferiores al humano evidentemente en muchas cosas, pero muy sensibles a la magia. Y que son básicamente las primeras criaturas a las que los dioses del caos corrompieron o tuvieron contacto con ella. Antes de rechazarlos para abocarse de lleno a los humanos, ¿no? A manipular y manejar a los humanos corrompidos por los poderes ruinosos del caos. Entonces, los Fimires son, si se quiere, una criatura o un grupo de criaturas o una raza trágica. Porque ellos continuamente están buscando ser otra vez bendecidos por los dioses del caos. Pero no hay manera, pues, o sea, no los van a creer. Pero aún así son seres muy cercanos y muy diestros con la magia.
To their advantage and to surprise their unsuspecting friend, the noble will be no different. He's going to benefit from.
Bueno, ¿y qué decide la forma? Básicamente es una especie de ser antropomorfo reptiloide ciclópeo, ¿no? Tiene un solo ojo.
That as well. And also, as a hero character, other Fimir present.
Aquí podemos ver un poco más el detalle. Ya habíamos visto un Fimir parecido en la facción de Nurgle, la que llegó hace poco, de Tamburkan, que tenía también héroes así parecidos a esto.
In the game will benefit from his presence in battle in various situations, so they can use him in conjunction with them, but also with other monsters and creatures in the Norscan roster.
Any more we want to talk about today?
Let me think a little bit about it. We can talk a little bit about the Chimera. So we're also adding a Chimera, the three-headed monster that I imagine it comes to no surprise to most, unfortunately.
Bueno, se incorpora dentro del bestiario de la mitología de Warhammer 40.000, bueno, de Warhammer Fantasy, la Quimera, ¿no? Un monstruo de tres
also
cabezas.
Adding a Chimera, the three-headed monster.
Por supuesto, nosotros sabemos que está sacado de la mitología griega y bueno, aquí podemos ver que hay diferentes tipos de inspiración para el mismo, ¿no? Como un lagarto, otra cosa allí, bueno, dos formas que son como Bueno, no sé, porque hay uno que es como mamífero, es raro. Y luego también tenemos como cabeza de águila.
Monster that I imagine it comes to no surprise to most, unfortunately. But it's a very vicious flying creature, versatile in combat, is going to be able to get in and out of battle very quick.
Probablemente, bueno, yo no sé el tamaño que va a tener, ¿no? Pero quizás va a ser como las mantícoras, ¿no? Quizás el tamaño puede ser como la mantícora o quizás ya tamaño descomunal o tipo dragón.
And its 3 heads will possess 3 different attacks that will also give it a little bit more zest in how it engages with other creatures. And
esto va a ser muy interesante, por lo menos para mí, porque a mí me gustan mucho las criaturas así voladoras que tienen, bueno, tipo dragón, ¿no? Recordarán ustedes, por ejemplo, mi campaña con los elfos que solía tener muchos dragones. Bueno, no sé, si hiciera una campaña con los Norse en estas circunstancias, probablemente tuviera bastantes quimeras.
And characters on the battlefield. And of course, there's going to be other secrets, but we're going to keep them for later.
And onto the Chimera, there is a little known biological fact that it has 4 heads because its tail is also a head.
True. That is absolutely right.
Tiene otra cabeza en la cola. Se supone que cada cabeza lanzaría un ataque distinto.
Okay, well, do make sure that you are, of course, subscribed and following us everywhere, because we do have more of this roster to reveal. But later, you know. Now, it's been some time since we've had the opportunity to update Norsca, but when we go back to looking at one of these factions that haven't been updated in a while and brought in line with those new standards that we kind of have, what's the first type of thing that we look at for this faction?
So, yeah.
Bueno, antes que nada, ellos dicen suscríbete para que consigas más novedades de Total War, etcétera, etcétera, al canal de ellos de Total War en YouTube. Y también yo le aprovecho para decir suscríbanse a Greco Warhammer y más, porque aquí yo, bueno, hacemos campañas de todos los Total War de fantasía, ¿no? En este caso, bueno, de Total War Warhammer. Y aquí, bueno, siempre estoy muy pendiente del contenido de Warhammer 3.
As you said, the Norscans have been in there for quite a while. We've been hearing people saying, just please update them. They're in need of love. And we've decided to give them this kind of love right now.
Respecto al nuevo estándar de Total War Warhammer 3, es que, como ustedes saben, Total War Warhammer 3 es un puzzle, así como las muñecas rusas, que está Warhammer 1, Warhammer 2, todo cabe en el 3, ¿no? Entonces, todas las facciones que ya venían previamente en los títulos anteriores están recibiendo actualizaciones en Total War Warhammer 3. Por ejemplo, los enanos, que era una facción una raza que había aparecido en el Total War Warhammer 1, si no me equivoco. En el Warhammer 3 ha recibido a Malaka y Makaison. Y bastantes cosas más, ¿no? Los dirigibles, por ejemplo, entre otras cosas. Lo que tiene que ver, por ejemplo, antes con... Bueno, ya Katai ya había recibido, pero Katai es una facción del DLC actual. Y el Imperio recibió a Helspeth von Draken, ¿no? Siguiendo esa regla de 3... son muchas de las razas que todavía requieren más actualización. Y bueno, los Norse son de los que más necesitan porque es que nunca han recibido nada.
There are 2 types of updates that we're making to the Norscans. One of those is related to their racial mechanics, but we're also doing some faction-specific ones. So in terms of racial mechanics, we're changing the way the monsters arcanum work. This is a favorite change of mine because it makes it kind of more relevant to what I'm doing in my campaign. We're also updating the way Chaos Gods Allegiance work and also the dilemmas related to Confederation. We're a bit expanding them. In terms of faction-specific stuff, we are changing the way Seafang works for Wulfric. Seafang is his signature ship, and currently he is available in the game only as a battle ability, but we have extended his presence to the campaign map. So right now we're using Seafang. Will provide you with an easier means of transport, crossing vast distances from port to port, which will likely turn you into this ultimate raiding machine that we're going for, the flavor of Wulfric. And as for Throg, Sil?
Me parece que se refiere a todo lo que tiene que ver con las mecánicas que tienen, por ejemplo, los pieles verdes de combatir entre ellos, ¿no? Para someter a los líderes y con ellos sus facciones y confederarlas, ese tipo de cosas, supongo que es.
Throg is an interesting case where he's the Troll King a little bit more on paper, at least as that's how we saw it in the current example. And as Todor mentioned, we've tried to push in the flavor for other Norscan faction, not just Throg. So one of the factors that we looked through when we did these reworks is to make them feel distinct of each other. Wulfric, Throg, and Sail. Wulfric being more the marauding side, Sail the diplomatic manipulator, and Throg the monster king that expands his kingdom in destroying things around him. Basically, he's going to remain on his present position, but we've adjusted.
Van a imprimir más, o sea, van a poner más énfasis en las diferencias de personalidad entre cada uno de los líderes de estas facciones.
Him with an additional mechanic that where he's going to be able to utilize his influence towards other monsters and trolls more in particular, and call their power, one might say, in order to aid him in battle and aid him in his further conquests. Another interesting addition that it's also worth saying is that we're adding a few more hunts within the Monsters Arcanum. So there's going to be more monsters to hunt, there's going to be more creatures to seek, and more rewards to reap.
And another time.
Y se supone que hay una mecánica de cazar monstruos, probablemente parecido a lo que tiene Rakkar, ¿no? Que Rakkar es el alto, no, el elfo oscuro este que se dedica a cazar saurios y demás.
Any but significant update is that both Throg and Wulfric are getting an additional set of voice lines. Especially for Throg, it was
No, yo me estoy equivocando porque Wulfric no es el... No es el piel verde, ¿eh? Es el otro, es el que parece un vikingo, literalmente. El guerrero que parece un vikingo.
Important to convey the fact that as he is a troll that's being touched by chaos, he's also a more intelligent kind of troll. Perhaps the most intelligent troll in existence.
So a whole new VA has been recorded for these then?
Yeah.
We saw that Wulfric and Throg were lacking VOs from the original game, as they're one of the more older factions within Warhammer. But also, we've heard the comments about Throg's previous VOs, and we completely agree with it, actually, and decided to redo completely Throg and update Wulfric to be brought in line with the current state of what Warhammer is today.
Okay, well, awesome. I'm glad that you guys have had the opportunity to do that. I know it's something that you guys...
Bueno, autorizaciones de voz, líneas de diálogo para ello, bien.
Guys have been asking for quite a lot on the Reddits and the forums. In the last What's Next video, we kind of forgot to talk about the Dakara and Slaanesh reworks that we're also trying to bring. So when it comes to Slaanesh, what are the things that we've looked to update there?
Slaanesh is an interesting case where they were represented just by Nkari currently, and we wanted to make the new faction in terms of the Kala and Nkari feel distinct from each other, but also supplement what Slaanesh does right now. And while it does it fairly well, we've updated a few systems to bring them more into up to speed with the current trends that we've used in other reworks. So that applies towards the technology trees. We've looked towards the proliferation of codes to make it a little bit more functionally usable in terms of their current strategies and what they aim to achieve right now on the map. And also we've...
Bueno, yo sabía de quejas que hay en la comunidad respecto a lo que ha tardado en actualizarse Slaanesh, que venía previsto desde el año pasado, ¿no? Pero bueno, siempre se ha dicho también de que mejor que las cosas se atrasen y salgan mejor a que salgan pronto y quizás con bugs o errores, ¿no?
Looked how to improve and tweak some of the more controversial aspects of Slaaneshi benefits, for example, their replenishment and also their usability in terms of battle and the stats there.
Okay, well, there you have it then. Sail and the Norsca are our next faction that you can look forward to when this next DLC launches later this summer. Now, unless you've been living under a mangler squig...
Ok, finales de verano implica lo que sería septiembre, si no me equivoco, ¿no? En el hemisferio norte, en Inglaterra. Podría ser septiembre, agosto, septiembre, por ahí.
You probably saw the Skulls event very recently, and you may have spotted this first look at Sail. Take a look at this.
Bueno, este es el aspecto que va a tener el personaje como tal, ¿no? Y ese es el báculo que termina en dos serpientes. Creo, creo. Un ritual que sale mal, ¿no? Porque este cabrón lo... Ah, claro, aquí está. Aquí él funciona y crea la criatura esta grotesca. Coming Summer 2025. Muy bien.
I mean, these trailers are just fantastic for us to watch. Break it down for us, though, Total. What have we actually seen in that trailer?
So we saw the first significant moment of Sail's rise to power, and also a treachery. Because what happened in this particular case is that Sail was a part of a conclave of magicians, and they're conducting a special ritual, unaware that Sail has, fiddled around with it for a bit. So it backfires the ritual because of Sail's treachery. And what happens is that the leader of the magicians, called Shalkane, and probably I'm butchering the name, I don't know, he is blown up to bits. Only his teeth remain, and there become a battle ability for self.
Interesante esto. Y, o sea que de paso él va a llevar restos mortales de sus enemigos que él traicionó, o sea que eran sus aliados antes, como parte de su indumentaria, de su ajuar, ¿no?
Further on, whereas the other three spellcasters are fused into this hideous blob of moving flesh.
Entonces, entendemos que esta es una sola criatura. No son varias que se puedan reclutar.
Specific kind of spawn that is called the Nightmare.
Nightmare se llama. Noche y Mog, no sé qué es Mog.
And this is something that you will see Sail use in battles.
Now, these things...
Y dice, verás que es algo que, o sea, lo usarán en batalla. Probablemente va a ser una invocación, o sea, probablemente va a ser un hechizo que se va a invocar y va a salir esta criatura, ¿no? Por un tiempo limitado.
I mean, there's so much work that goes into creating.
¿Saben qué me hace pensar esto? Me hace pensar los portales que se abren para los dioses oscuros, donde aparece, por ejemplo, una unidad de horrores rosa o desangradores de corne, ¿no? Algo así creo. O sea, un portal que se abre, sale la criatura, hace lo que va a hacer y dura un tiempo corto.
Creating them. When we start to concept them, Stoyan, how long does it take for us to get from that point to the finish line where they're looking as cool as we saw in Skulls?
Well, it's a quite long process, and actually everything starts with the brief from the game design team. We collect all the information we need, the research for Warhammer lore, and gathering miniature references, if there is any. After we collect all the information we need, the concept team start with a rough sketch representing the main visual features of the character.
Bueno, y fíjense una cosa, o sea, antes vimos a este personaje cuando era humano, ¿no? Cuando era 100% humano, que hace este ritual, esta tradición,
the concept team start with,
y convierte a sus compañeros en esa masa de carne, ese engendro. Y me parece que hay como una evolución del personaje dentro del propio juego, ¿no? Parece que se va a ver así al principio, después y así sucesivamente. Y va a ir incorporando mutaciones, que es algo propio de los dioses del caos, que hacen que sus devotos tengan mutaciones. El gato dice que sí. Así que así debe ser. Ya lo decretó.
Representing the main visual features of the character. After the sketch is approved, we continue with the actual concept, where we create.
Al final es flipante, ¿no? Porque, o sea, en lugar de brazo, va a tener un brazo con garras y otro una especie de tentáculo.
More detailed and accurate version of the character.
Su espada es como una especie de falcata o algo así.
Including multiple view angles, material guides, stuff like that. And after that, the concept is actually ready to proceed with the modeling part, where...
Quiero que me pongan en los comentarios qué les parece este personaje y que me digan además, porque, a ver, yo lo que creo es que es un devoto del caos absoluto, por tanto, probablemente lo va a poder mezclar aspectos de diferentes dioses del caos. Yo quisiera saber qué aspectos utilizarían ustedes en él. Yo utilizaría probablemente 3. Slaanesh. Me hace pensar mucho en Slaanesh por el tema de ser un tentáculo, ¿no? Porque Slaanesh tiene tentáculos. Corne, bueno, fuerza bruta y magia, porque ya sabemos que va a ser un gran mago.
We create the geometry and texture and materials for the in-game model. After that part, the character continues his journey to the skinning, rigging, animations, and VFX. So it's a quite long process. A lot of teams are involved, and yeah, it's a great team effort in general.
Now, one of the great privileges that we always have with these What's Next videos is the opportunity to talk about the craft of making a video game, because it's something that we love doing, but it's never easy. And I mean, that's always going to be true of art as well, isn't it, Stoyan? Like, what are the challenges that you bump into when you're trying to create something as immersive and diverse as the world that we have in Warhammer?
Well, I think the main challenge always is to keep the fine balance between multiple requirements, one of which is to keep all the assets true to the Warhammer lore and sources, in the same time to fit the already established.
Bueno, algo muy parecido a lo que hacen con la historia, ¿no? O sea, tratar de ser fieles a la historia, a las fuentes, a la vez que hacerlo divertido y jugable. Es lo mismo que pasa con Warhammer, o sea, hacer que todo lo que hagan para el videojuego coincida con lo que ya se sabía, lo que ya se sabe de la comunidad del lore de Warhammer Fantasy, y va a hacer que sea divertido, ¿no? Además, ese estilo visual que sea atrayente.
Established visual style and technical requirements for the game to be capable of performing all the actions and abilities which are required by the game design, and in the same time looks cool. So yeah, all these things are kind of difficult to balance in some cases with some characters.
And already this DLC that we're creating now, it's taking shape, and it's stuff that we are really enjoying having a look at and playing with already. But when you guys are playing the builds that you have today, what are the things that are really making you smile and say, I can't wait for players to actually get hands-on with this?
Well, from my perspective, one of the things that really inspires me is the fact that I, as a Total War player, am one of the first to experience the entire thing of playing a campaign with Sail and seeing how his features have come together so that a particular type of experience can be achieved, and also then providing input on that experience. But if we're talking specifically about art, I love the battle animations of units. So what I do on most of my battles in the very beginning, before I've hit the start battle button, I just arrange my units and I do a pass over with the camera right by them to see how they roar or, you know, sharpen their weapons or whatever. This is something that I love, not only for Warhammer, but for any Total War game that I've played.
It's actually one of my favorites.
Él es de los míos, ¿eh? O sea, le encanta esto de ver la formación de las unidades, de verlos todos ahí preparados y listos para comenzar el combate. Como dijo Napoleón, siempre es hermoso al comienzo, ¿no?
Aspects as well, to see something brought to life from a sketch that we've all worked to bring into existence, and then with the progression of how it appears without maybe the textures or maybe without animations, and then the animations appear. And because for us in game design we're focused over multiple aspects of the project itself, we're not always keeping in touch with the latest development, and it's occasionally brings a smile for me too when I'm doing testing of a feature or something else to see a new animation added and it's something incredible, something great. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, and that's one of my favorite processes of this job actually as a whole.
There is literally a kind of magic in there, because for some of the units, what you know in the beginning is just the brief paragraph of text, and then months later you see the unit in the game, and you say, oh my God, it's alive.
Bueno, esto también es verdad porque, o sea, todo es verdad, obviamente, pero a lo que voy es que muchas de las cosas que hay de Warhammer Fantasy han sido esbozos, han sido pequeñas notas en libros de batalla del juego de mesa, que no tenían una forma o un lore muy definido, y precisamente en Total War Warhammer 3 o en estos juegos es que se les ha construido su lore, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, eso debe ser también fascinante, ¿no? El tomar algo así tan en bruto y pulirlo.
This is what it is.
Looks awesome. It's always a great feeling at the end.
And we're obviously so blessed as well because there is so much creativity in our community and from our players. When we see art come from them, whether it's their own creations, whether it's mods, whether it's just tiny tweaks on what we've got, like what is it that you see in our audience that inspires you, Stoyan?
Yeah, for me as an artist, it's always inspiring and interesting to see other artist representation of Warhammer units and characters, especially ones which don't have actual models, references. So in such cases, without such specific reference, it's very important for the artist to have great imagination and deep lore knowledge to be able to create this character in the best possible way. So I think that especially for the concept design, the imagination is very valuable trait, and I suggest to all aspiring artists to try to always create something new and different, not always everything else which is already there.
Now we have 6.2 on the horizon. There's going to be things that we still want to do before we get to update 7.0. But Todor, what are those things?
So, as you mentioned, 6.2 right around the corner somewhere. In 6.2, we will be updating ancillaries in general in the game, their effects, their trigger conditions. We'll likely be adding some new ones. We will be trying to find the balance between making those ancillaries that are perceived as, not as useful, making them more powerful, more prominent, but still retain the ones that are fan favorites, their unique status. This update to the ancillaries, we have been thinking about it for quite a while, and we've decided that now is the proper time to release it. And earlier in the year, we released 6.1, which brought about a significant update to Kislevite factions, to the gameplay of Kairos with a few additional units for Cathay. And we're really happy with it, because this was our way to address player feedback related back to the release of Shadows of Change, because these were the factions from the Shadows of Change. One thing that we did find out is that it took a significant effort to plan it, design it, develop it, test it, and then release it. So the next patches will be focused on some specific bits in the game. Of course, the ancillary system is something that is quite far-reaching, but it is one of the features. And these are our plans in general for the future patches, to focus on specific aspects of the game itself. One thing that we are doing in addition to the patches and the hotfixes, which are still recurring, is the Proving Grounds. The Proving Grounds are this special kind of an arena where you can play a version of the game with some fixes and some changes in there.
Ojo, una versión de arena. Esto será parecido a lo que vi en Trikindon. En Trikindon podíamos hacer unos combates bien locos, ¿no? Entre los héroes y cientos de unidades.
And you can give us your feedback. And this is the proper moment to thank our community for providing us with feedback on the campaign AI changes that we have done so far. Our main goal was to make the campaign AI more active, more challenging, so that you kind of meet some resistance in the later stages of your campaign. This makes it more engaging, more interesting. And it was really amazing to go through the feedback of the people playing actual playthroughs and telling us how things happened with them, telling their story. This is one of the challenges that we're facing, because a total war game, if you have to experience its entire campaign in actual environment, it takes a lot of time to complete. We don't have enough people over here to do sufficient amount of playthroughs for the Immortal Empires, where you can have, and you already have, more than 100 playable factions. Of course, the dev people are playing it, and our QA team, God bless the QA team, are playing the game too, and we're taking their feedback into account. But the Proving Grounds are a really priceless source of feedback. So please join them. Please give us your feedback. We'll take it into account. And we plan to do some more in this year, again, related to various aspects of the game, where such changes which will benefit the most from a lot of people playing them.
Okay, well, that's probably just about all the time that we've got for this particular What's Next video. Of course, our thanks to Todor, to Stoyanov, and to Vasil for joining me today to talk through all of these changes. But there you have it.
Ese Vasil es el director actual de este proyecto. Bueno, lo dijo al principio, ¿no? Pero bueno. Así que sí, hay que agradecerle o criticarle algo a él, ¿no? Porque él es el que está viendo todo desde la supervisión.
Sale is our next legendary lord leading the forces of Norsca, and of course he's joining Dakala, who's marshalling the forces of Slaanesh. There's still one more legendary lord for us to reveal, which we'll be doing in the next What's Next video, which we should have for you next month. In the meantime, do make sure you drop down to the comments below. Let us know what you think. What have you enjoyed hearing about today from the team? What's got you super excited for what's coming next in Warhammer 3? For now, we will say our goodbyes, but do make sure you head over to totalwar.com. You'll find all of our socials linked from there. And of course, make sure you like this video and subscribe, because we'll have plenty more to show you on this DLC in the near future. For now, we'll say our goodbyes. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, folks.
¿Qué?
Hit it again. I hit it again.
Bueno, un poco de caos, ¿no? Chicos, está interesante y hay que estar atentos porque va a venir más contenido, evidentemente, y pronto vamos a saber cuál va a ser el otro señor legendario que van a desvelar. Así que nada, nos vemos en la próxima y cuídense mucho. Gracias.